What's up, everybody? So CBC has posted a new article about the two missing children from Nova Scotia, Lilly Sullivan and Jack Sullivan. Experts point to anomalies in unprecedented case of missing Nova Scotia children. Lilly Sullivan is 6 years old and Jack is 4 years old. 2 weeks after two young siblings vanished without a trace in rural Nova Scotia, experts are pointing to anomalies in what they say is an unprecedented case that deviates from a typical missing children's investigation. Lilly Sullivan and Jack Sullivan have been missing since May 2nd, 2025. That's when police received a 911 call reporting that they had wandered away from their home in Lansdowne Station. Nova Scotia RCMP then launched a search that included ground search and rescue officials, dog teams, drones, and helicopters. But after 6 days of scouring the heavily wooded areas surrounding the home, there was no sign of the children, and the search was called off. Police have said they do not believe the children were abducted, but have not ruled out the case is suspicious. An associate professor in the criminal justice department at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette said the facts of the case and apparent lack of evidence makes it an anomaly. It doesn't meet a lot of the normal criteria for what we would see in these types of cases. Usually, there's evidence in some way that would suggest something nefarious has happened. It mirrors those adult missing persons cases where we call it quiet disappearances. There's no evidence. A few details stand out to her as unusual, including the children's absence from school that week. The children's stepfather, Daniel Martel, told CBC that the children were not in school on Thursday or Friday, the morning of the disappearance, due to illness. They also were not at school on Wednesday due to a professional development day. It could just be incredibly bad timing that they had 48 hours unaccounted for before the disappearance, but that's just one of the things that stands out in her head. Police will not say if anyone else had contact or saw the children in the days leading up to the day they went missing. She states she believes police should be considering whether a person played a part. In a stereotypical kidnapping by a stranger, the offender doesn't usually target a specific child or children. They create a plan, and whomever is in the environment at the time falls victim. It doesn't seem like that would be the case here, because what we know is they were in their backyard in a rural community, so it's not like they were walking to school or past the gas station or something where it can be an easy snatch situation. So if it was a stereotypical stranger kidnapping, it would have had to have been somebody who said, "I want those kids in particular." Nova Scotia RCMP said Tuesday they were following up on more than 180 tips from members of the public and exploring all avenues in the investigation. The Mounties said 35 people were identified for formal interviews, including community members and those closest to the children. A criminologist at Western University in London, Ontario, called the case unprecedented, saying it's highly unlikely for two siblings who live together to vanish when a parent is not involved. And there's no evidence of that. If that had been the case, I think we would have heard about that very quickly, he said. This case, when you overlay it on 100 other missing children's cases, it just doesn't add up at many levels. He states he thinks police could be more forthcoming with information about the case given the public is being solicited for information. He said following up on 180 tips requires a great deal of resources. Police can't be everywhere, so they rely in cases like this on the eyes and ears of the public, and that needs to be a two-way street in terms of information. Otherwise, they're just going to get tips that really just bog down the investigation and aren't necessarily of any value. He also said police should have said publicly in the early days of the search whether the case was considered suspicious. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that there is some active lead being worked and they don't want to upset the situation that they are in. But based on appearances, this went in the wrong direction early on, and key momentum and leads were lost when they were out looking in the fields for the kids that maybe were never there. RCMP said Friday that all missing persons cases are treated as suspicious until our investigation leads us to determine otherwise. Daniel Martel did not return a request for comment on Friday. The children's maternal grandmother said police have advised the family against speaking to the media. Nova Scotia RCMP declined an interview request and would not answer specific questions about the case. In a statement, the spokesperson Carlie McCann said police have spoken to the majority of people identified as potentially having information to support the investigation, and other interviews are scheduled to take place in the coming days and weeks. Officers involved are also continuing to follow up on all new tips that come in. McCann declined to provide more information about why police believe the children were not abducted. On Friday, Kevin McLean of Colchester Ground Search and Rescue said searchers will be back in the woods on Saturday and Sunday with volunteers from multiple search and rescue teams. In a news release Friday evening, RCMP said the search will focus on specific areas around Gairloch Road, which is the road that the children lived on. This case truly is bizarre. The fact that there is no information, no evidence, nothing of what happened to these kids, like not even a clue, nothing. It's bizarre because they didn't just walk out of their house and poof, vanish. They went somewhere. Something happened, and there's either two, like somebody out there knows something. They have to. And if that isn't the case, if indeed nobody out there knows nothing, what actually happened? I can't see a 4-year-old in boots and a pull-up diaper going outside at the beginning of May. It's not like it was a scorcher of a day and it gets cold at night. That child in a diaper would have gotten cold if he was just out playing in the yard or playing nearby in the woods. He would have come home. They probably play outside. They probably know the area. Even as a 4-year-old, like, you can know the area somewhat. You're not going to completely this is all allegedly. Maybe they did just wander away and get lost. I have absolutely no idea. But it's crazy to think that that's the case and they just vanished. I find it hard to believe that a 4-year-old would wander away from home in just a diaper, but who knows? There's no evidence pointing anything anyway. But at the end of the day, I sure hope that both of these kids are found safe and sound and are brought back home to their family.